If you think you were nervous watching the World Juniors this year, imagine what it was like for this guy. And hell, that wasn't even the first time Coach Pat Quinn had the weight of a country on his shoulders. That, of course, Salt Lake City 2002, when Pat coached Team Canada to their first Olympic gold medal in 50 years. So who is this Pat Quinn guy? Well, I'll put it to you this way. The big Irishman was born in Hamilton, Ontario. By 1968, he had made the NHL, joining the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, Pat wasn't really noted for his skill on the ice, perhaps best remembered for this crushing blow in '69 when he labeled the great Bobby Orr. In all, Pat's playing days were about 9 years in the NHL, but injury is what forced him out, and it wasn't a hockey injury. He actually slipped on his daughter's skateboard and shattered his leg. So in '77, Pat didn't get out of hockey. He stayed in, got a gig as an assistant coach with the Philadelphia Flyers. 2 years later, head coach of the Flyers. He actually led that team to the Stanley Cup Finals. From there, he moved around, coached the LA Kings, picked up a law degree, then went to Vancouver to become the president, GM, and coach of the Canucks. By the way, 1994, back to the finals. You may recall the awesome series against the Rangers, in which the Rangers ended up winning the Cup. Next, Pat went to Toronto, spent 7 seasons coaching the Leafs, and at times, running the Leafs. 2006, he was out, and was asked to coach our juniors this past year, leading the team to his 5th straight gold medal. Everybody, please say hello to Pat Quinn. Great to see you. Welcome to the program.
Thanks, George. Thank you very much.
Man, I first met you so long ago when I was first starting in this business, and you had just come to Toronto, and I was working for a sports radio station, and you had come to be the head coach here. And so much has happened. I think for a lot of people, the most recent memory is this World Juniors gold medal. What was that moment like?
Well, actually, anytime you get a chance to watch your country's flag go up and people sing "O Canada" after a championship of that nature, I can't imagine that there's a better thrill in life.
The Jordan Eberle goal. It's the goal that hurt. I mean, I was watching in my house, and I remember being in that state of depression that all Canadian hockey fans get when we realize we're not going to win. And then that goal goes in a way I swore, I ran. I couldn't believe it. I looked across the street in the apartment building across the street from my house. All the lights were on, and I could see people running through their apartments, running and freaking out. It was this moment, and you knew across the country, we all felt it. What's it like standing on the bench when that goal goes in, when it seemed like Canada was toast?
Yeah, there were some good things happen there. I had looked up with about 15 seconds to go. It was right after that the Russian boy had a chance to put it in the net, could have skated a couple, 3 feet, didn't do it. Whatever happens in sports that makes that happen. So it gives us a second chance. I had looked up and I said 15 seconds. Well, maybe it's not going to happen this year. I had outlined a play, and I've had this play when you pull the goaltender for 25 years as a coach. It took 17, 18, and 19-year-old kids to make it work.
You've tried this play before?
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's funny because I wonder for you, a guy who's coached kids and grown men for so long, but in the NHL, it's such a different world coaching players like that. What it must have felt like for you to be with a bunch of kids who, like, they needed you. They needed the kind of coaching from you and your assistants. You needed them to believe in you. It just seemed like a very different environment coaching the juniors than it would have been in any of the NHL teams you had.
Well, it was a good fit, and I had an opportunity to take the under-18 team to Russia in the spring. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and a guy that's been around a long time like me, you're a little apprehensive. I've had young 18-year-old players in the National Hockey League, but 1 or 2, and you always wonder, okay, I've got a whole bunch of these young men now. How's that going to be? But the principles of coaching stay the same. It doesn't matter. Your audience changes a little bit. Mm-hmm. Your age group, you can coach a group of 5-year-olds or 50-year-olds, and yet the principles are the same. You have to identify that audience. And in this case, I was lucky. I had good assistants, and they helped me understand the age groups of these boys and their mentality, their maturity, the stages that they were going through. Mm-hmm. Canada is teaching good skills, so I knew we had some players that could play. I don't like the trap style. I don't like falling back, and I knew we'd face a lot of countries to play that way, and that was in this World Championships as well. I think, and I believe, and we proved it, that if you've got some skill, can play a game that doesn't have to slow down to face the trap. You can play it with speed, and everybody, I mean, I've come back and watched the NHL now. That junior hockey was way more exciting that week than than the games I watch right now. And those kids played it with speed, with heart. They wanted to learn, and they were really enthusiastic about playing.
The funny conversation comes up. It has over the years many times. I can't remember it being this heated in a long time. And obviously you have a tragedy where one player dies in a different league, and now Gary Bettman is forced to deal with it every day. Do you never send the guy out there to beat somebody up? You know, like coaches, you always say that coaches are the guys that do the tap, and the player, it's never said, but the player knows what he's supposed to do. How does a coach handle that?
Yeah, there are coaches over the history of the game that would like the fact that they've got this guy on there that they can treat like a dog and send out. And nobody, in my opinion, I don't, never like that. I always said in my mind, I'll keep you on the bench if you learn how to play. Yeah. I won't keep you on the bench, but you'll be part of my team if you can learn how to play.
Well, you had Ty Domi, right, who a lot of people thought he was a goon.
Well, the first thing I said to Ty when I came to Toronto was, Ty, I know you're a tough guy and a fighter. If you learn how to play and show me you can play hockey, you can stay on the Toronto team. But if you're not going to, if you're just going to put on a show and go out there every once in a while, then I don't want you. Mm-hmm. And he made every effort to become a good player, and he did. He really improved over his time, but he was a tough guy, too.
The story just after the World Juniors was almost a done deal that Pat Quinn was going to go and Ottawa would be your new home. And then within a week, it was you're going to be in Pittsburgh. Yeah. And then a week ago, I heard maybe Edmonton. And I started to hear all the, and I thought it must be good to be Pat Quinn. You have all these teams. Were you close to going anywhere?
Oh, no, I have not received a call from any team at once. And it's so unfair. I mean, I said it right to the media right away, even guys that you trust, and I won't mention their names, they call you up and say, well, what's going on? You're going to Ottawa. I said, no, I'm not. I'm not even talking to Ottawa. That's not what I hear. And I said, I don't care what you hear. I have not had a conversation about working for Ottawa. Mm-hmm. It was so unfair to the coaching staff there.
And it's never contacted you, and it just all of a sudden you're out there.
It's all media driven, and it's too bad. But would I like to work? Sure, I've told people that. I mean, I really miss the day-to-day operations of a hockey team, and whether it's in Canada or States, Canada's way better. It's vibrant, and but I'm not a guy that's knocking on a door asking for a job where someone's working. I wouldn't do that. Sure. I would never do that, and I'm not going to start it now. And if someone had called me up, for example, Ottawa, it's called me up and said, well, I want to talk to you. You better make your other coach go away before, if that's what you want to do, because I just don't believe in that. It's a hard enough job without all of that stuff going on. And it was all media driven.
Wow, you know, it's funny because I know that being in Toronto for so long and watching in Vancouver, they always said, you know, Pat Quinn was great with the veteran team, and the knock on you was you couldn't work with kids. And then the moment you win this World Juniors, everybody said, well, Pat Quinn can work with kids now. Yeah. It seemed like it was done. Did you take the job partly so you could show people that you could do this?
No, not at all. That didn't bother me. I've been in the business long enough to know that falsehoods go out there, and they get a life. And then, you know, it's like, when did you stop beating your wife type of thing. You know, well, I never did. Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure.
Pat Quinn denies beating wife.
So that's what happens here. Someone said I didn't get along with the young kids. The first Toronto team I had 3 kids on defense. Remember Markov, Caberlet, and the young French kid, escapes my name. His name escapes right now. But Tremblay.
Yeah.
Tremblay. And we did fine. We went right to the to elimination right before the Stanley Cup. So it takes a life on of its own. There's no truth to it. I can work with whoever.
Tell me about the time. I know you've talked about it a lot, but I just watched again the video today. The time you just rocked Bobby Orr, because there was a lot of. Not many guys rocked a player like Bobby Orr the way you did. When you went back to the bench, did you sit there and go, I just clobbered number 4?
No, actually, it didn't work quite that way. I'd had some run-ins with Bob. One night in Toronto, that was my first year for being called up. Bobby's younger than me, but he was a great player. Maybe, in my opinion, the greatest player. In Toronto one night, they had a team that was going to win the Cup, and we had a team that was going through change. And
it was a couple of years after the Cup, right?
1 year after the Cup, basically, the Punch dismantled the team, and so they were going through big changes. Lots of young guys coming in, myself and Rick Lee and McKenny, and lots of young guys. So anyway, Orr comes in, he makes a play on the net, and a puck smothered there. Bruce Campbell goes to cover it up, and Orr, he was a tough kid, he slashed Bruce on the glove, smacked him with the stick. So I was standing right there, so that's my game. So I cross-checked him and knocked him on his butt. And so he's laying over there, and I was standing over top, and his feet were still in the air, so he kicked me in the stomach.
With his skates?
Yeah. So I kicked him in the ass with mine. So then we let it get up, and then we go after and have a fight. Yeah. And I beat him. There's one only thing I was better at than him, and so that was the first time. And then we had a few more run-ins, and then in this game here, Britt Selby, the style of checking we had is 1-2-2 again, but Britt had to put him out. Britt could skate really well, not as well as Bob, but great skater. Put him on the outside. I could see Bobby coming. He had his head down. He was being bothered by Britt, but he wasn't watching. And so I stopped and started going the other way. He still didn't have his head up, so I was able to put my shoulder on him.
Yeah, they say it was your elbow.
It wasn't the elbow. I hit him right here. Yeah. There was a follow-through. Yeah. But but that was just momentum.
Please come back. It's good to see you, man.
Thanks, George.
Coach Pat Quinn, everybody. All right. There's the quote. We'll be right back. Pat wasn't really noted for his skill on the ice, perhaps best remembered for this crushing blow in '69 when he labeled the great Bobby Orr. In all, Pat's playing days were about 9 years in the NHL, but even the first time Coach Pat Quinn had the weight of a country on his shoulders. That, of course, Salt Lake City 2002, when Pat coached Team Canada to their first Olympic gold medal in 50 years. So who is this Pat Quinn guy? Well, I'll put it to you this way. The big Irishman was born in Hamilton, Ontario. By 1968, he had made the NHL, joining the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, do you think you were nervous watching the World Juniors this year? Imagine what it was like for this guy. And how that was